Yeah, hi everyone. It's Billy here again from 47 Wolves All I Am. I hope you're all well. We welcome back Martin from Arcanum Vita. Welcome back, Martin. No,
Yeah,
love all our chats from what we've done before, and looking forward to whatever we talk about today. But
yeah,
as we do, we'll talk about the new moon coming up next week. This is recorded on the 30th, but the new moon's on the 4th. Of August, and
yeah.
yeah, we've got the Lionsgate coming up. We've got astrologically, you can share with us what your thoughts are and what's in the charts. So welcome, Martin, and thanks for joining me.
Yeah, cool. Good to be back, Billy. Thanks for having us. And yeah, no, always good to chat with you. And yeah, I look forward to it. Yeah, but
Excellent.
no, it's an interesting new moon ahead. What have we got? The fourth of 4th of August is the new moon in Leo, so it's the Leo new moon. It's an interesting one. It's at 12 degrees of Leo. I guess that's a Pisces aspect. So there's this idea. I think, the way I look at it, it's this idea around sort of creating a new sense of self, or sort of reinitializing a new sense of self, sort of dreaming up this new idea of who we are and what we're about and that type of thing. So it's a lovely new moon, well aspected. Like it's got this enormous vibration, I guess, between Mars and Jupiter in Gemini. So there's a lot of thrust and a lot of action and a lot of moving going on, a lot of communication and that type of thing sort of coming forward with it. But yeah, like as you say, we've got the Lionsgate, the 8/8 Lionsgate
Yep.
coming up, and I suppose it just in another level too. We're at Festival of Imbolc in the pagan calendar as well, which is St. Bridget's festival, which is I guess we're at the midpoint between solstice and equinox now, so it's the beginning of life and the beginning of spring, and it's a very auspicious time energetically, the new moon in Leo, generally, but again, the 15th degree of Leo, which is not too far from the new moon at 12, that's that sort of midpoint, or that outpouring point of the heavens, which kind of initializes new life and new optimism and
Excellent.
new vibrations.
So what,
Set your
what so
intentions
what's
and all
the
that. Yeah.
what's the main factors of the Leo significance with the Leo new moon?
Yeah. So, well, Leo's about self, essentially, like self-expression. So we're Aries. Aries is I am, whereas Leo is the full heart, I guess, the heart space, or the heart expression of self. So it's we take the I am, and we ground our value, and then we sort of communicate our value and think about who we are, and then we find security in Cancer, and so those four stages leading up to Leo, I guess, are the four elements, the fire, earth, air, and water, and in Leo we synthesize all those elements together into a full expression of who we are. So Leo is that sort of synthesized version of self-expression, and so it rules the heart, and not just the physical heart, but like the metaphysical heart, like our heart space and the energy of love, and it's that sort of creative fire of self-expression. So Leo essentially, it's that realization of ourself out into the world. Like they accuse Leos, I'm not attacking Leos here, but like they may say Leo's the drama queen, like Leo is the look at me. It's that sort of, life is my stage, and
Yep.
I'll express myself. So in that way, the Leonine energy is very sort of proud, very out there. It's one of leadership. It's one of sort of, it's a regal type of energy. But at the end of the day, too, it's the second degree of the expressive signs. Like Aries is fire, Leo's second degree fire. So it's what we emerge. What emerges from our inner psychological depths of Cancer enters the stage, or is shown to the world through Leo. So in a way, when we get a new moon in Leo, it's that energy of who we are, or what we are as ourself, and how we express that in the world. So in many ways, yeah, this is a chance under the Leo new moon for a new beginning, turning a new page, like writing a new script on what we'd like to say to the world, so to speak. And in a way, it's a statement of all the changes that we've made over the last few month or so, like in this dark deep of winter that we've had. We've sort of been in our withdrawn sort of insular states of mind, and probably in many ways going over things close to home, or even just emotionally or psychologically, and with the change of weather and the change of light and the change of seasons, like there's this upwelling of energy, and we can bring that out into the world and go, right, well, this is who I am now moving forward. So this is what I'm going to make of things now that I've had a chance to sort of ruminate and process them and reset my intentions and that type of thing.
Yeah,
so
like I was going to say,
it is it's a very...
Sorry, but yeah, you're right. No, I was just going to say.
No, you're right. Yeah, so we've had that time to contemplate.
We've had that time to contemplate our, and self-reflect and go inwards, move on from what hasn't been working for us, and now we're ready to branch out and expand, and that expressiveness can come out. It don't have to be a Leo. That's just the energies that are coming in. Yep.
That's it. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, no, you definitely don't have to be a Leo. No, we've all got a bit of Leo in us, like we've all got this Leo aspect in our chart. And I mean, from an astro point of view, like, everyone's got Leo in their chart, in some place in their chart, and essentially the energy of Leo is resonant with, or similar to the energy of the sun. So, like, I guess even on the fundamental level, the prana or the life force or just the solar field that we're in, our vitality and how we express, how that sort of flows through us and goes out into the world, that is a very Leo function. It's a Leo state of being. Whereas Leos, I guess they're living a life where that becomes a sort of a goal for them in their evolution, is to sort of allow that light to shine in their life and sort of synthesize all those aspects of the personal life into an expression. And so, like, but we all are Leo. Like, that's the thing. Like, and all of us at this time, we would all be plugged into a collective sort of consciousness that is beginning to emanate forward, like beginning to sort of find a new form of self-expression in the form of life, of nature. Like nature's sort of waking up, I guess. Like, we're sort of coming into the spring of our time anyway. In that way. But it's that type of thing. So you don't have to be a Leo to benefit from it in that way. But it's I think, if we have a look at this particular moon, like, it's sort of, it's got this lovely dynamic about it where it really does kind of, set the scene to make a bit of a change, like, and I suppose, like, it's like, being, it's trining the North Node. So, like, in many ways, who we are and how we integrate, how we sort of interface with the collective. So when you look at it as a personal sense of self-expression, like, how that then interfaces with the collective is very much sort of being brought into flow with this moon as well. So it really kind of, to me, it sort of suggests just a reinvention or a redreaming of what we're about, in many ways. And it kind of, if we look at Venus too, like, Venus is squaring Uranus in Leo as well, but it's at the 29th degree. So, like, there is this function in there when we think of ourselves and how we emanate to the world. Then that obviously brings us into relationship, but also sort of brings us into the idea of what's of value to us and what are we trying to, either express or receive. And that's that function is at the critical degree of 29. So, like, there's this real ending and beginning, kind of this critical degree at work in this reimagining of who we are. And that's, I think, going to be sort of precipitous in a way where we're going to be sort of finding ourselves definitely moving away from something, but very much moving towards something as well. So I think when you end something and start something new, there is obviously this process of reimagining who we are in that.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I was reading as well, Martin, that it's a time within the Leo new moon and this next new phase we're going to go into is about, like you were just saying, to expand on that, to stand in your light and to know who we are and to expand out, to express ourselves, and then allow or encourage others around us to do the same. Is that that's
Absolutely, Billy. Yeah, like be in your. I mean, that's Leo, is stand in your light, stand in the full light of the sun. Like, there's the idea that the sun either casts a shadow or takes away the shadows. So, like, it's sort of, suppose if you look at the negative aspects of the solar expression, we can stand in, judgment or pride or arrogance or, all those sort of negative attributes of, some may say, selfishness is a sort of a negative Leo energy thing. But in the other way, it's selflessness. It's this idea of just beaming forth in love, so to speak, like standing in the heart energy, like from a chakra point of view, it's that heart space, it's that sort of point of synthesis, like where, the heart kind of is where all the disparities is rectified. Like, so, everything's dual, everything's polar in this world. We've got the goods and bads or ups and downs, but it's the heart that actually, synthesizes the dualities and brings them, into a point of synthesis. And I suppose that it's that energy of Leo too that operates through that space. But at the same time too, like, from synthesis is just consciousness. So like, essentially, if you're standing in your heart energy, you've got the ability to neutralize the dualities, and in doing so, you're offering yourself the ability to obviously raise your consciousness, as in see things from a different perspective, lift yourself out of the old patterns and transpire into something new for the purposes of creation, which is essentially a Leo concept. It's the creative heart, the creative self-expression. So, as creators, we are essentially leonine in that function, that we, take all the elements, fire, earth, air, and water. If you think of it from a magical context, like if you take all those elements and synthesize them through the heart, that's creation and that's magic. So like they're really, Leo is the fifth sign that is meant to, essentially by virtue of its operation, synthesize all the four elements into the creation of what it is that we want to, manifest or create. So that's the magic of Leo, and that's the magic of the heart space, I guess, is the point of, taking the higher intention or the higher flow of energy and sort of, do the harmony through conflict thing with the lower dimensions, and sort of bring about an alchemy, if you like, to turn something of a lower vibration into something of a higher vibration. So like it's that raising of consciousness through love and self-expression, I guess, Billy. Yeah.
I love that, Martin.
It's a lovely thing.
Yeah.
It's a lovely thing like that in that way. And seasonally, that, if we look at the world as a flow of energy, as we emerge from the depths of winter and as we emerge from the solstice to the winter solstice, we're at that sort of, low bottom contractive, cold, dark point of matter or light. And now we start to emerge out of that space into the spring. We're sort of being reminded that this creative impulse exists, and this is the beginning of yet another cycle of creation, where when it runs its full course and we come back into autumn again, and there's the sort of the dissemination and the contraction back into winter. Like, we just realize that all things go around, all things are cyclic, and they move through, and there's this beautiful melody symphony at work.
And being in that heart space, Martin, it gives us permission, or we give ourselves permission, and I'd encourage anyone that's listening to use that expression to be in sovereignty, to be it can manifest itself in many ways, but to be yourself, to be fully expressive. If you're doing it with heart space, you're not doing it out of fear or anxiety or holding someone else back. You can be true to yourself and express yourself and be to be out there. Just do it. Have integrity. Be authentic and put yourself out there, and it's at no detriment to anyone else, and it will actually shine a light on yourself, not in a selfish or self-centered way, but giving that allowance or that permission for anyone else witnessing that or being in your space to then do the same. And what a beautiful energy that permeates out then throughout the world. Without getting
absolutely, but I couldn't agree more. That beautifully. No, I totally agree. That's beautifully said. Like that is that spirit of Leo. Like that's that idea of just literally let your light shine. Like it's again, it's not all fairy tales and rainbows, but at the end of the day, that we are a creative being. Like we can create, and we can do it through love, and we can do it through that's, I guess, through compassion and love. Like they're the energies of the sun. Like, I mean, esoterically, they say the solar vibration that we live in, like the sun being the source of life and vibrational frequency energy in the universe, that sort of pumps out, if you like, it pumps out esoterically they call it a second ray energy, but like it's this energy of love, wisdom, compassion, and healing, and that is the energy of our sun. So if you imagine this, we're in this big giant field of energy, and the nature of that energy is love, healing, wisdom, and compassion. Just by virtue of being in it, in the field, that is the energy that comes through us. So like, really we live in a field that is totally animated or charged by what we would call love, healing, wisdom, and compassion. So like that's our solar vibration. Like that is the vibration of the sun. So like, if you allow that solar energy to be mobilized in your body, then essentially that's the energy that's flowing through you. Like, I mean, it's what we call that anyway. So like if you sit there and go, wow, that's so compassionate, or that's so loving, or that's so wise, or that's so healing, like it's just so solar. It's just the sun that we are in. And our experience in this field, if you like, is one of love, healing, wisdom, and compassion. So that's just the nature of our sun. So yeah, if you go out in the sun and you feel the light and you feel the energy on you or through you, you're feeling what we call love. Like the sun essentially gives off a vibration that is similar to love. So if we feel love or stand in love, we are just aligning with the vibratory field that is thumping out of that big bright yellow thing in the sky. And so like that's the solar vibration. So like, yeah, and it's just like it's a vibration. It's like a music. So if you're dancing or singing or moving or harmonizing in a creative heart space orientated self-expression, you're thumping out the vibration that's coming out of that big old sun up there. And like that's the vibration of love, healing, wisdom, and compassion. So like it's a great thing ultimately, like, and I suppose that's where the shadow comes in too, is that if we remove ourselves from that light, or if we separate ourselves from that light, then that light is no longer acting through us, it's casting a shadow. And I suppose that is essentially the challenge of humanity or life, is to continually rectify through loving consciousness growth, resolve the separation from that field, which is the sun, so that we can ultimately align with it and remove ourselves from the shadow, so that, we make things more greater than they were before we got here, I guess, at the end of the day. But that's the point, really.
That's beautiful, Martin. Well done.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah,
love it.
totally.
So we mentioned Lionsgate before. We don't.
Yeah.
I must admit, each year we talk about the Lionsgate. We know the portal's on the 8th of the 8th, as you mentioned before. This year particularly, I was reading, because it's 2024, it has a numerological aspect as well, being 2024 being an 8, 2 plus 2 plus 4. So we've actually got the triple 8 this year. And what I was reading, it does have significance in so many different cultures. We were talking about it before. I was reading with the, and I didn't know this either. It's actually astrologically, and you'll be able to touch on this in a sec. That it comes on the 8th of the 8th of the actual alignment with the Sirius. With the star Sirius, with the Orion, and also Earth and Mars. Earth and the Sun, as we were just talking about the Sun, and that's that perfect alignment. And a lot of cultures actually see this time as their new year. So instead of January 1st or 31st of December, New Year's Eve, traditionally, that in ancient times was their new year, and their time to, I think I read the day without time was the 25th or 26th of July in the Mayan calendar.
Interesting.
And I was also reading before with the Egyptians, and I think you've got some info there as well, that in ancient Egyptian time, they actually seen that when the Sirius star was shining at its brightest, which is around this time, that they seen that as the harvest and fertilization time. So they seen that star, seen the star Sirius come up in the sky, and they knew then that the Nile River was going to flood and provide water in abundance, and then create that was the start of their harvesting time and their fertilization. It's just incredible how ancient cultures such as the Egyptians, the Mayans, actually really utilized the stars, and they had such an understanding and an innate connection with the stars above as below. What's your take on that?
Yeah, totally, Billy. Yeah, no, it was interesting. I sort of read a bit of that too. Like, just in the sense that it was really fascinating how they use that Sirius, the Egyptians in particular, as the trigger for their. They knew that once Sirius was rising in this point, it was basically they were going to get floods. Like, that was the beginning of the wet season, which brought on their annual cycle again. So in a way, it was a calendar event almost for agriculture, like, in that way. And I think there's a lot of merit in that too. Like, I mean, if you think of it just, with seasonal alignment and time of year when it turns up and all that type of thing, like, it's this beautiful sort of permanence, if you like, that underpins the flux of life. Like, I mean, it's this, that's what I love about, this idea of the stars in particular, not just the planets. The planets move all the time, but the stars just seem to be fixed there, like, as in we move, but they don't, and so there's this beautiful background of permanence to everything, and yet we get all these trends and fads and things come and go. But for my whole life, Sirius has been doing the same thing all the time. Like, it's just there, like it's this bright star, and like I suppose that's like it is that reliable indicator out there that we can sort of fix back to in wisdom and look and go, okay, cool, there's something very significant about this sort of repeating visitation of this one fixed object. But like, it is, it's New Year, it's that whole beginning of the cycles, it's the 888 in particular. Like, it's interesting, the period of the rising of Sirius, they say it's that sort of from about late July to about the 15th of August, essentially, is the period of intensity for the Sirius. And they sort of go, okay, let's pick the 8th, because that seems to be about the midpoint in that ascension, so to speak. But like, it does correlate also with 15 degrees of Leo, which in many cultures that like they mark that as their beginning of spring. Like, it's the kind of, this is the beginning of new life and new festivity. For us in the Southern Hemisphere, it literally, it's the other way around in the North, but for us in the Southern Hemisphere, it's that beginning of the light returning. Like, it's when the days start to warm up. And like the festival of Imbolc in the pagan system, that was essentially they called it a time of purification or a time of fertility. Same thing, like, it's when the milk from the ewes started to run, like, essentially that's when the milk will flow from that point. I think the word Imbolc even comes from just meaning, ewe's milk, so it's this idea that life's starting to come back and kick in. So it's a rebirth. But like, you nailed it, Billy. Like, that's essentially what we've got going on. And like, I think too that the origins of life, in a way too, there's this sort of philosophy behind it too, where Sirius is a kind of a conjugal point of, it's our spiritual sun, so to speak. Like,
I've heard it called
they would look
that,
at it in that way. Like, we've got our like our physical sun is the sun that we look at, like it, our star is our physical sun, which kind of, I guess, our monad comes through, and it ends up in our physicality, our incarnation. But the higher principle behind our life and behind our sun is believed to be Sirius. And so, when that becomes ascendant, we're at this point of most highest orientation, or most direct orientation to our greater self. You know what I mean? Like, so there's that's hence the new year. Like, this is our point where we can really connect with this higher spiritual solar presence, and because it is a giant big sun. And I mean, this is getting a bit left field too, believe it. Like, apparently the Orion, like, if you think of it in esoteric, I could be wrong here, but the esoteric understanding is that this Orion's belt, the Big Dipper.
Yes.
Like, there's 7 stars in that, and those 7 stars all emanate their rays, and it's all those rays that get synthesized into Sirius. And like, so the Big Dipper is Sirius is a sort of a synthesis of all the energy coming out of the Big Dipper. And then Sirius, then the light of Sirius apparently, spreads out into the Palladian system, apparently. And then the seven sisters in the Palladian system are all synthesized down into our sun. So like there's this relationship apparently between that constellation, Sirius, the Pleiades, and our sun, apparently. So that's about all I know. But like it's sort of, but essentially there is this sort of cosmic kind of flow down effect that comes down through our sun, which our sun then emanates a certain aspect of Sirius, which Sirius by that rationale would contain seven versions of what our sun is one of, if you know what I mean. So like it's sort of, in other words, it's a higher sort of field, and it gets a bit more trippy too, where it's essentially, if you think of the esoterics, that Sirius therefore has seven facets to it, and so therefore this is where it gets into incarnation and stuff like that, reincarnation. But like on a soul level, as we incarnate, essentially the source of our incarnations, because some say that we have 7 incarnations on a certain soul vibration or something. So essentially the main star that we align to on a repeated level is Sirius. So it's, again, that's the higher denominator of our current existence. And so we're just an incarnate vehicle of something greater that is of a Sirian nature rather than a solar nature, our sun's nature. Our sun is just responsible sort of more so for this incarnation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's sort of, it's kind of, it's a bit trippy like that. But essentially this time of year we get to reline up with our source, so to speak, and re-intend and reconfigure and realign, essentially. So it's exciting in that way.
Yeah, and it goes to show how powerful, like we've actually, like you're saying, we've actually got our sun that we know, and we've got Sirius as the spiritual sun, as the ancient cultures called it, and to have them both in alignment at the moment with Orion and Earth, you can feel the power, you can feel the energy, that newness, the abundance that brings, like you say. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, and it is. That's the idea of it. Apparently, like the idea is to line up with that, to kind of connect with that, and match up with the frequency, or align with the frequency. But like, in another way too, it really is just about re-intentioning. Like kind of resetting and realizing that maybe just for a minute I am an energetic vehicle. Maybe I am an energetic being, and maybe there is something more, kind of hierarchically organized than me. And why not have a shot at reimagining and re-intending and just going, well, okay, I might just finish with that expression for now. And here's another one that I'd like to sort of bring in. And like, I don't know, for what it's worth.
I hadn't thought of this before, but I wrote it down before, and not particularly linking with what you're just saying there, Martin, but the figure 8, the 8, we're talking about the 888. It's the infinity sign, if you put 8 sideways, as most people would know. And it's also the DNA activation. So what you're saying there, to activate our DNA, but to take this time, and I'm sure the ancient cultures did this, not just from an agricultural point of view. You had water coming in the Nile, for example, with the Egyptians, but to actually sit there and as above, so below, connect in with the stars. And that's why it held such reverence and significance for the ancient cultures, which we're either relearning, some of us, and rediscovering now the importance of that we are as one, not just with our fellow human beings and animals and everything here on Earth, but the sky above offers so much wisdom that we can look upon if we take the time and pause and sit with that, not just physically seeing the stars, but also the energies and how they line up, like you said, with the story with the Big Dipper and Orion and the Seven Sisters, which we've heard before. That's it. It's amazing.
It does. It all kicks in. Yeah, because I mean, essentially, we are in an solar energetic field. Like, I mean, we really are. Like, I mean, it just it's undeniable. Like there's a big giant bright thing out there that kind of shines out all this energy, and our sun has a heliosphere, and it does its thing, and like it itself has a 25,000 something year orbit around its particular place of being. And so like on some level, and I think this is where our DNA kind of would come in, and it's permutations of light, and it's permutations of energy and frequency that sort of spell out our form, spell out our reactions, kind of predetermine our responses to things based on our hereditary, our ancestry, and things like that. So, essentially, it is just the way we interact with light is sort of, in a way, what life is, I suppose, without, at the risk of oversimplifying it. But like essentially on some level in mind, there would be a fundamental basic association that we can arrive at with that. And, essentially, I think that would on some level resonate with our heart space. And so, why not through our heart, through our intentions, through our orientation to light and to just even warmth in its most fundamental principle, most physical form, like kind of shed a bit of light in our life, like put some light into our life in that way, and give ourselves that little bit of space. Like one thing I find fascinating is that, some people may even feel detachment from love, for argument's sake, or that type of thing, but just to realize alone that the sun itself is love, like that is the vibration. When we love something, we are brought into love. We don't feel love, like it brings us towards love. And in other words, it might inspire awe in us, or it might inspire reverence, or whatever it is, and that removes the blockages to something. We open up to something, and I think what we open up to is the allowance to come into the space that aligns with love, and like that energy is the solar vibration. So like we're never out of love. Like we are actually made of it. And it's just sometimes it's just realizing that and allowing ourselves to surrender into the love, which is the sun. Like that's the big thing up there that comes up every morning, is a giant ball of emanating love. And like, I don't know, that sounds really hippie, but like on a frequency vibratory field, that is what's going on. And like, if we want to heal, or if we want to emanate compassion, or if we want to stand in the vision of just consciousness, or whatever it is, really all we're doing is orientating ourselves to the sun, and we're doing it in such a way where we are putting ourselves more in touch with, or more able to flow with its light. And that's that's not, could be some people out there going, oh my God, that's heretical or whatever. But there are other messages out there that talk about similar energetics and similar things and similar archetypes and similar beings. And, even the Christ principle itself is a solar vibration. And that's not to say that neither exist. It's the vibration that is the same. And like, so however you want to ascribe to it, it's your gig, like it's whatever you want to do. And that's not to make one better or worse, but essentially at this time of year, when you think of this consciousness, what we are talking about is our sun and what it pumps out, and that's Leo, essentially, the energy of Leo. And so that's that big thing, that is the sun is ruled by Leo, or Leo, it rules Leo, the constellation of Leo, and that's what we're talking about, essentially. Yeah, we're talking about this giant throbbing ball of love in the sky, man.
And exactly, and the infinity of that. So the abundance that the sun provides is infinite, and it's limitless. There's no boundaries, and we've got the same within us as well. We don't have. We can give as much heart, we can take in as much heart as that we choose. We talk about choice and perspectives. To the choice to. And
sorry, Billy. Well, that's that. When you say infinitely, like I think I remember hearing a physicist once, but the sun pumps it out. It pumps out creation of matter and form and everything, but at the same time there's this giant in-breath that takes place where it all returns and gets fused into fundamental plasma again to be re-released. So like it is this cycle of creation and destruction and, in and outflow from the sun. So the sun is just this constant recycling, reinventing field of matter, matter and life and energy. And like, if you think about it, the thing that comes behind that is the other solar energies that pour into that sun from these other suns, I suppose. So it's this beautiful, dynamic, creative, infinitely creative and recycling and birthing and rebirthing kind of vehicle or manifestation of creation that takes place. But at the end of the day, too, like, that's not to say that they're, when you see that, all it does is it provides a separation from, or not a separation, but a perspective from, wow, what an incredibly dynamic creation the universe is. And I mean, therefore, wow, like, what created that? Like, I mean, it's incredible, but that's not our concern. It's just respecting and revering that. Oh my God, there must be. Well, I just said it. There must be something far more magnificent that brings this out to us. Like, and that's the beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I love what you said before, Martin, with the permanence, and what I think you meant, and you correct me if I'm wrong, was you're not saying it stays the same all the time, but it's consistent, so it comes around the same time every year, for example, and obviously the outer planets come around and takes them a lot longer, but it's still there's a consistency or a permanency that regardless of what's happening in our lives, there's that to look forward to, that we can depend on that.
Like it's almost like, I suppose you call it traditional, but it's permanent. And I just think back to, I sort of thought of this yesterday, and I walked out and looked at the sky, and it's the same sky I was looking at when I was 14, 10. Like, I mean, it's just like, wow, actually that has not changed, but the cars have changed, the rubbish they're talking about on TV has changed, like everything, all the trends have changed, everything's changed, but that sky has not changed from my perspective a lot at all. It's just this reminder of this sort of eternal permanence that's there, and like that sort of gives you, I don't know, for me at that time, it gave me a great sense of peace and sort of security almost. It's like, well, that's there, man. Like, it's just there.
And I love the way the world works too, and nature. I mean, the whole system, for want of another expression. But you've got the northern hemisphere, us here in the southern hemisphere. They're in their summer, we're in our winter. The sun, even though it expresses its love by shining down on us and providing warmth and vitamin D and radiation. It has its sleep. It just moves around to another part of the world and gives them the light, and allows the moon and the stars to come out to express themselves as well. And then the stars and the moon do the same. They go, okay, well, it's the sun's time. No one's giving up anything. If you looked at them from a energetic or a being within themselves, if they had a mind, and there's no question for me that they don't have a mind and a heart. They're part of the system. We're part of that. That they give themselves. So I think there's a lot to learn for us as human beings when we look up at the sky, like you say. We can go with the trends. We can choose not to, but at the end of the day, we can. We have a choice there to absorb what and we don't. When we step back, like the sun does of our nighttime, and allows the moon, stars, etc., to shine their brightness and their brilliance, it's not giving up anything. It's just
that's it. It's still rocking and rolling.
If that
it's
makes
still
sense.
bumping up. Yeah, it does, Billy. Like, it's not. It's a process of our motion, not its motion. Like, I mean, it's doing its thing. Like, it's just we just change our orientation to it, day in, day out. But it's sort of almost, in a way, it's relief. In a way, it's relief from its brilliance. Like, I mean, if we didn't have nighttime, it'd just be full on, wouldn't it? Like, I mean, how full on would that be? Like, just to be under the sun constantly, like it. I think the night, if you think of Chinese medicine too, or energetic medicine, like, that's the yin. Like, we need that yin or that lunar time to recharge, to re-assimilate, to nourish, to kind of to settle, because the sun is so yang, it's this yang force, and like so it's expansive yangness. If we didn't have that yin, we'd just become, I think we'd disintegrate. Like we need that. And sometimes if you really tune in, like once sunset comes, it's like, oh, like you just feel the contraction. You feel the sun turning off. Like we can actually come down to our basal metabolism at night. Whereas during the day, by lunchtime, it's like we're lit. Like it's like, whoa, we've got our energy plus the culminating energy of the sun sort of channeling through us. And so really night to me, or the shadow, or the yin, or the darkness, so to speak, is a bit of relief from this enormous everlasting source of loving light. Like it's sort of, but that's not to say it's bad. It's just it kind of gives us that contrast where if it weren't for night, if it weren't for the shadow, if it weren't for the other side, no experience, I think, would be possible, because we wouldn't have that contrast. We wouldn't have that sort of that shadow in which to kind of collect or coalesce or nourish or draw from, in that way. So it's interesting that nighttime kind of yin aspect that we get from the night is vital as well. Absolutely. In a way.
Yeah. And it allows us to sleep. It allows us to rest and pause. And what I find fascinating, we've got chickens, for example, but they're not just they're not isolated by any stretch. But the animal life, apart from the nocturnal ones that do what they do, most animals go by that cycle, don't they? I know our chickens, for example, they put themselves to bed. They go to the coop once the sun starts going down. And it doesn't have to be full darkness. As soon as that sun goes over the hill, for us, the chickens put themselves away. We close the coop up. But I find that fascinating that just comes to them so naturally. They didn't have adults to teach them. They just know to do it from little chicks.
This is it. Nighttime, out of bed. Yeah, absolutely. Like, and that is that. I think everywhere in nature there's this movement between dark and light, and like it's just. But that again, that's a statement of the fact that like how many years have been evolutionarily involved in adjusting to the fact that the Earth does this lovely circle every 24 hours, sort of reliably. But and same with the seasons. We got day and night, but each year or each month we've got a full moon and a new moon. Each year we've got a winter, midwinter, and a midsummer. Like we've got these points in the year that basically describe the variation between full light and full dark. And it's these divisions that come down through that. But if you look at the source of light, it's the sun. And I suppose Lionsgate or Galactic New Year, all those types of things. It's when we are at the point of most alignment to that, I guess, that solar vibration, which is the universe. It's I suppose even at night when we're away from the light, we realize how much light there is. And you look at all those dots out there and just how much energy is pouring out of them. If it weren't for the darkness, we wouldn't realize the backdrop, the noise that's going on around our sun. So it's quite intense, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that you mentioned that with the seasons, Martin. I mean, we know about moon planting from an agricultural point of view, and there's certain, as we all know, there's the seasonal fruits and vegetables that grow that you need to plant at different times of the year for them to harvest them in 3-4 months' time, whatever it may be. But that has its own cycle, doesn't it? And
absolutely in itself. Even as you say now, this would be planting time. The Leo 15 degrees of Leo is the activation time. I think, or in bulk anyway. I think one of the words for it too was belly of the earth or something like that. So this is when the activation of the earth starts to take place. So we're really kind of lightening up and warming up where planting can really take place for the summer crops. Australia is probably not that necessary because winter here is kind of quite warm mild, technically, but but for the northern hemispheres or at least the more southerly and northern parts, you can't really plant in the deeper winter, certain things anyway. But yeah, so now would be the time when you'd be able to sow something that would have a bit of vigor about it and grow.
That's
Yeah,
very
so
true.
it is good like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I
true.
love too
But
the other.
like, and
You're right. Sorry, I'll just
sorry,
quickly
Billy.
mention,
Yeah.
Martin. The other thing I like, and
No,
this
you're right.
this is probably a bit warm and fuzzy for me, and only because
Yeah,
it's my own perspective. But how
yeah,
how great is it as humans, even if we're not or we don't consider ourselves or label ourselves, spiritual or too warm and fuzzy, that we all,
yeah,
and I haven't met a person alive that doesn't like a sunrise or a sunset.
yeah,
And the significance
absolutely.
of that for me can't be overexpressed, because I don't know
Good
about you,
point.
but I haven't met a person who visually doesn't love the colours and the contrast that you've got. Literally got darkness behind you, and I
Yep.
climb we live in the Glasshouse Mountains here on the Sunshine Coast. Quite often, it's closed at the moment, but one of the mountains that has 360 degrees, so you do get that contrast. But there's
Yeah.
literally, I don't know, 50, 60 people, and it's not a big area, that come up and hundreds and thousands of people line up and go for walks on the coast,
Yep.
on the beach, so they can see the sun come up over the water. They love it. And they don't consider
Absolutely.
themselves spiritual for any word, like a lot of them, but they
Yeah.
still love that the energy that they can feel the warmth. They see the
Yep.
colours. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really seems to
Because
heighten
we're
all their
plugged.
senses. Yeah,
Absolutely, we're plugged into it. Like we're absolutely plugged into it. Like there's no doubt about it. Like that's the thing. Like that is the source of our life. Like that's life. The darkness is just a modifier for life. So it's bringing life back into perspective, like so that we don't literally vaporize essentially. But yeah, really the sun is excitationary. Like it excites us, and like I suppose that I suppose that's the energy of love too, is that it's how we can synthesize excitation, and I suppose without actually becoming stimulated, like it's sort of, we can, that's where energy or stimulation in love turns to this resounding joy, like, and because it's encapsulating the energy in such a way where it flows through us rather than just sort of we oscillate in it, like, and so that is, yeah, that's that. It's undeniable. We're plugged in, aren't we, Billy?
we
Like
are, we are.
yeah,
And
right.
again,
It's a beautiful point, Billy. Like, yeah,
I think it also comes.
who doesn't like a sun?
Oh,
All
that's
right.
right, yeah. And it comes back
Yeah,
to perspective and that choice that we talk about so often, Martin, that that seasonal or the nighttime, when we do go through a winter, and you said before, Australia has generally a mild winter compared to other northern hemisphere countries and places, but there are places in Australia that has snow and ice and all that, gets
yeah,
down below zero, and some people embellish that and they love it and they embrace it. Other people might choose, I say, to not like it so much. They go, oh, it's cold or it's too hot,
yeah,
or and without
yeah.
knowing what it feels like to be cold, we don't get the chance to then go to appreciate the warmth and the sun when it does come out, and vice
That's right.
versa.
It's
Like
all relative, isn't it? Yeah, it's
exactly.
all relative,
But it
depending
goes to
on,
show, with
yeah,
what to your point before about love, we can be in love with all of it, and knowing that it's only temporary, but it will come back again. So it's permanently
yes,
temporary in a way,
yeah,
that there is part of that cycle. So we can say, okay, well, it's cold now. I've got to rug up, put some extra clothes on, put the heater on, whatever it is. But this is
that's it.
beautiful. I'm going to embellish or embrace this time, because I know it'll be warm in a few months' time or tomorrow or whatever.
Yeah,
And that's the beauty of
exactly.
the weather. I love that.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I mean, I suppose that sort of flows a bit into the astrology as well. Certain planetary transits or certain times of our life, if the sun is the driver of all life, it is modulated in a way by the planets and, how we experience them. Like, life isn't Leo, the whole life, Leo is just one part of our chart. So we do have all these other parts of our life that do modulate how that love flows in our body, or how we can access it or not access it, or whatever, and what blockages are there. And they're the processes, I guess, that we go through. And the reality of life is it's not all loving glows and rainbows, like, but it's just to know that at the source of it, it is, or at its highest expression, it is. But really we're still involved in in a process of growth. We're still involved in a process of evolution. And so, we still do have to modulate or learn or grow through various interactions or permutations of this energy in order to have our life experience. So like that's the trick, I guess. But it's the fundamental knowledge that underneath it all is this fundamental principle, and that can be returned to, and we can endure all of these other things with that orientation of heart there. You don't have to, you can go through hell from a heart space, you can go through hell and realize there is a heart space, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that makes hell beautiful, because hell's still hell. And so it's just knowing that, I guess. It's putting that into context, I guess, in that way. But yeah, no, it's interesting. And I mean, just to jump ahead a bit there too, Billy, as I think about the galactic new year that we're in and all that type of thing, it does raise the awareness too in me that, if we look at Pluto moving into Aquarius now, and probably too 2024, if we look at the 888 sort of correlation, it's interesting that this year we move at Lionsgate, we're essentially on the beginning of the Pluto in Aquarius sort of transit, which some people say too coincides with the end, the very end of the age of Pisces and Virgo that we've just been through, for the last 2,000 odd years. We're moving into this sort of Aquarian age, so to speak. And so it's almost like this 2024 moment is an epic sort of changeover into the Leo Aquarius age, or the Leo Aquarius vibration, so to speak. So it kind of highlights, I suppose, is what I'm getting at, with Pluto and Aquarius and Aquarius, if you think of the energy of Aquarian energy, is very I suppose nervous system based, I suppose we could call it, or very electrical or technical or technological. On the other end of that polarity, we've got the heart space and we've got the energy of Leo and that type of thing. So I suppose to kind of morph this into something rational, if we look at the time we're heading into, and we can see it in the duality of our times even, we're in this sort of this time where technology and frequency and vibration and electrical energy and even the kind of the technocracy, so to speak, of digitalizing everybody and sort of making science king and all that type of thing is very Aquarian. It's very, very lower based, obviously, mind you, but it's lower vibration Aquarian. It on a physical level, it runs through the nervous system. You got 5G and all this sort of kind of vibratory electrical energy. But then on the other side of the spectrum, we've got this Leo dynamic which balances it. And so that's that heart level. It's that need to sort of resonate through a unified sense of love and self and humanity, the sovereignty, so to speak. So you've got and then if you start going up the vibratory levels, well, on the other side, you've got humanity in Aquarius and sort of increased frequency of consciousness or increased frequency of vibration, which would be probably more likened to what they call, 5D. And then on this other side, then there's this increase of individual sovereignty through heart awareness and heart creation and heart space that sort of elevates the consciousness up through that polarity. So we are very much moving into this dynamic now, and probably this Lionsgate will probably kick it off even in a greater way. I think we've got solar flares firing off all the time now and all this type of thing. So the energy is really increasing. And as you can see on the physical level too, there's just this endless quest towards, I suppose, dark sort of technological tyranny on one way, but the way we can escape that, or balance that, not escape that, but balance that out so that Aquarian vibration starts to become integrated more humanistically, is through activities of the heart. It's through activities of developing heart space. So we should be creating joy, space for joy, or creating space for rhythm, creating space for love, creating space for that free rhythmic movement of the heart. And this is, I suppose, as a response to technocracy humanity is challenged with the idea of, instead of becoming fried and completely overworked on the nervous system level, the way to integrate this higher frequency field is through that sort of synthesis of the heart. So like it is important more than ever now to kind of, otherwise we'll become anxious or overwhelmed or overlit by this increasing electrical energy that's coming in with the Aquarian field. We really do need to start, synthesizing it through the electrical conduction or the synthesizing capacity of our heart. And that's just something to mention too, Billy.
Yeah, no.
And I think that, yeah, this is probably the challenge of even this moon in itself, because it's got this kind of, I don't know, a bit of a hard aspect in it too, to Uranus in Taurus. So just to tune into this, to, whoever's listening to this, with this moon, I think they'll be contained in it because, we've got Mars and Jupiter conjunct, feeding right into this moon in Gemini. So it's a very busy moon. It's flat out. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of force. There's a lot of over exaggeration. It's to me, the energy of Mars and Jupiter in Gemini is busy, fast, and if at its worst, overblown. And so that's feeding into this moon in Leo. So there's a real drivey, sort of forcey, rushy kind of energy here. And it's good to be conscious of that, because we can use this vibration to kind of create a way of coming back into flow, coming back into rhythm, taking ourselves out of anxiety or taking ourselves out of this really anxious sort of flood of energy, and get back into rhythm, get back into groove, I don't know, beat some drums, put on some music, look at the sun, not look at the sun, don't do that. But just observe the fact that you go outside and there's this beautiful light, there's this beautiful nature that you're in, get back to nature, kind of slow down a little bit, insofar as not slow down as in restrain yourself, but get back into the rhythm of your heart, get back into that sort of that nice gentle beat. Change your music choice if it's fast or erratic, bring it into something that gets you into a nice groove, because I think we're going to need it, insofar as that we are now moving into this very marked polarity between electrical and cardiac. There's a sort of a field emerging. Some say, I read something a while back where the sun being Leo, the sun is our heart space and all that type of thing, whereas Aquarius is ruled by the North Node. It's the North Node is kind of a lunar Earth, more Earth-based mentality of the collective consciousness. So there's this duality between the sun and the moon, and in that the moon now, or the driving head of the moon, so to speak, which is the North Node, is more Aquarian orientated. So and some old folklore says that the North Node is kind of evil in a way, or worldly, in the sense that if you look at the baddies on the planet, so to speak, they're those that want to gain or just selfishly attain, is more of an Aquarian, sort of at this time anyway, more driven by the Aquarian impulse, whereas the sun, which is the love, healing, wisdom, compassion sort of archetype of the duality, it's solar, it's Leo, sorry. So we're in this dichotomy at the moment where there's dark forces that are willing to technologically overtake humanity's sovereignty, say, but in contrast to that, humanity needs to raise its frequency and vibration so that it can stand in its sovereign heart space and through consciousness evolve. And so but on a physical level right now, we're in the challenge of having to sort of integrate this enormous increase in electrical energy through Aquarius, so that we can somehow raise our consciousness or our networks in ourself in order to fit this new frequency. So it's this real dynamic going on where in the world we can see, yeah, wow, look at how the lower forces are playing this out. They're trying to technologically imprison humanity, but the higher vibrational forces are actually adapting consciously to go, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to move more towards a holistic human love-based consciousness. So it's not saying, which either or, but that's the actual evolutionary paradigm that we're in. And somewhere in the middle, we're all going to be torn, and it's probably going to manifest from edginess or anxiety or disillusionment or disorientation or whatever. But if you can sort of take a step back and go, wow, the world's really speeding up, the frequencies are increasing, and on the other hand, my body needs to somehow integrate it and synthesize it, otherwise it'll play through my heart adversely. Well, then what do? I have to develop my heart space. I have to develop that. And in many ways, I think that's what this new moon is about, especially at 888 Lionsgate. It's here to re-intention and reorientate and realign so that we can pull ourselves out of the techno babble and the techno vibe that's just overwhelmingly noisy and it's roughing up our nervous system. We've got to pull ourselves out of that and get back into an elated or an evolved heart space so that we can function in the new form of nature that's unfolding. Does that make sense, Billy?
100%. I love it. I love it, Martin. Yeah,
totally. Yeah. Sorry, I'll just I'll take a breath.
You're right. Well done. Well done. Yep. That's amazing. There's so much beautiful information in there, and good tips too for the listeners. So, like Martin said, to have that awareness, to slow down, to whether it's if you've got the opportunity or everyone has the opportunity at some level. Put yourself in nature. Go and walk in a park, or go out in the rainforest, or whatever way you can. Just to pause for a while. Soak up some sun. Take a few deep breaths in the fresh air. Just even if it's momentarily, because it'll circuit break. You use the word electrical a lot, because that. Whilst the technology is very beneficial in so many ways to so many people, you're right. There is an element to it that is creating that such a fast, speedy, dynamic pace that that's fine. And you even talked about fast music. There's time and a place where you go, let's bop and dance, or let's go crazy. And then there's other times where you go, all right, I need silence. To appreciate the music, I need the silence, or it's that duality or the polarity, like you're saying before.
It is.
And if we have, it's just maintaining that awareness. So I'm starting to move out of my heart space now. I'm getting anxious. I'm overworked. I'm tired. I'm fatigued. All those things that have an effect on us mentally, physically, emotionally. If we don't have that awareness, then we can't pull ourselves out of that, and we can't. Pull back, just take a pause, get that holistic viewpoint so we're not swept up in it all.
That's it. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's true. It is. And realize too that the more, it equates, so the more the physical network increases, the more full on, and I just think they're all relative, the more we get high tech and the more we get energetic on the physical networks, the more those networks are taking place universally too. So we are receiving a lot more. We have far more scope in our intellect for compassion and understanding. We have all those things. So there's big breakthroughs that are possible on a human level as well, and they will happen. That's the thing. It's not like the technology is going to win. It's not. It's there will be a synthesis between the two. And at the moment, we've just got the dark and the light kind of playing out the duality. I've sort of heard that the dark ones, so to speak, that they are just taking a hit, and living this horrifically opposite life to good, so to speak. If there is no good or evil in that way, but there's one polarity that's running out in one direction, so that the other polarity can go the other direction, and then eventually they both meet in the middle on a higher level. And so essentially, it's interesting how, even just, I don't know, just, I was going to say, just side effect wise, if you think of how, say, technology might have been introduced lately to pull people more into a technocratic grid, and some people talk about it, but it's interesting how on the opposite side of that, it affected the cardiovascular system, it affected the heart. And so it's just interesting how this polarity played out in that sort of global expression that we just recently had. And And so to me, that's just another form of this duality attempting to play out, where you've got, say, darker forces on this side and the responding lighter forces. But essentially, if you look at it, what's emerging from it, it's a message of sovereignty. It's a message of liberty. It's a message of humanity. It's a message of, raising our vibrational awareness away from that sort of dehumanized, sort of technological, mindless, soulless type expression to a sort of in contrast to a full heart humanistic perspective. And I mean, that's in its extremes, and obviously that's ideal, but that's talking from a collective level. But on a personal level, we are in a gigantic electromagnetic field that we weren't in, say, 20 years ago, if we're still around, and frequencies are increasing, and there's a lot of change going on a lot of levels. And ultimately, we're being forced to evolve. Like we're evolving, and like how do we do that? You can't use the same methods that were once in a new situation. So, like, well, what do we do then? Well, the first thing we do is nourish ourselves and look after ourselves and make sure that the systems that are being used in evolution are working appropriately. And the two big ones that are being hit right now are the nervous system and the heart. And so, like, get into things that support your nervous system and kind of encourage good heart rhythm and good sort of heart health. So walking, exercise, breathing, meditation, singing, dancing, like just expressing yourself, laughing, like all those types of things encourage good dynamics when it comes to neurocardiac function. I think the new speciality of the next 20 years is neurocardiac awareness, like in that sense. But it's really is, it's looking after those systems in a way. And I suppose, it's a test this month in a way. If there's a test in it, there's a lot of stimulation coming in this month, but all good, like new movements, new things, but moving away from old things into new things. And that's the key. It's being prepared to jettison what was completely, so that you can actually fully embrace what you'd like to do moving forward. And I think that's the key, because the tension will be found in trying to pick the middle ground in a way, when really just be bold, be proud, be not proud, but be courageous is the word I'm looking for. Be courageous to just move ahead and towards something that you enjoy. And put yourself into that, and I think that's a really good start.
Beautiful. Yeah, and there's a lot to be said, Martin, for joy. However that comes into your life, whether it's music, dancing, singing, drawing, painting, going for a walk in nature, whatever it may be. Most people that listen to this would know that I've gone through some cancer recently, and spending so much time in hospital, it was really interesting, Martin, that talking to the nurses, which I had plenty of time to do when they weren't too busy, but just and anyone can look up the statistics that you can see it on the TV there, with younger and younger people developing cancers, developing heart problems, some cardio issues, some digestive issues, they're neurological, like you said before. So there's got to be some truth in there, without me being a scientist and you either. It is very factual based, and I think science and spirituality will come together from that perspective, because they're starting to realise, even in the science world, I'm not talking pharmaceuticals here because they've got their own agenda, in my opinion. A lot of scientists are starting to explore the connection between being positive, being in joy, being in heart space, and what benefits that has, as opposed to allowing yourself and not pausing and taking that, or using discernment and just continually getting swept up in all the technology and the fast paced and everything else, which has its advantages that we depend on, and we've got to evolve, like you said, Martin, but at the same time we need to be aware of what that's doing potentially to us or for us, and having personal experience. You're overexerting yourself, you're working real hard, and we're all trying to do our best, but if we don't have that balance, in testimony to that, I found out in a real I wasn't just tapped on the shoulder, it was a big smack, and that's really made me look at how I want to live my life, and I thought I was pretty aware, but it goes to show in the fast pace it is easy to get caught up in the pace of life, and that the anxiety or the stress of, I've got to earn some more money, I've got to do this, I've got to get this job done, and you push yourself, and that yang is good. But sometimes we need that yin as well, like you were saying before. So I recommend and suggest highly to anyone to take on board what Martin was saying about, look after your health, take those walks, look at what you're eating. And no one has to be perfect. I love chocolate and stuff as much as the next person, but it's all a balance, isn't it?
It is. It's about balance. It's about living a wholesome approach to life. There's some beautiful herbs out there that relax us. There's some key nutrients that we got to have in our diet. Eat well, eat a balanced diet. Don't overstimulate, don't understimulate. Basically, imbalance is a process of either excess or deficiency. You've either got too much of something or not enough of something. So it's finding that balance in between, and sometimes too, like principles often can be a great result too. Just having a look at what your drivers are. Do I need to put so much pressure on myself? What am I actually aspiring to? What am I trying to live up to? What is it worth that? Is it worth all that? What brings me joy? What actually brings me nourishment? Sometimes we've got to do the hard yards, but we can also set up that nighttime for ourselves, set up that yin, set up that sort of that capacity to re-nourish ourselves and support ourselves in the face of potential overstimulation. And so there's two things that we're kind of countering there. One is when we think of the sun, one is that straight up vibratory stimulation. So encouraging heart space so that we can integrate it. And that again comes down to outlook and how we express ourselves and how we're involved in our creative capacity. And then on the other hand is allowing for nourishing forces that actually soothe and calm us down so that we can reconsolidate and basically cool off. I sort of imagine the steam coming off a wet shirt. It's just sort of quench the heat, the vital heat of the sun. So that's just good wholesome practices, like keep well hydrated, rest well, sleep well, be flexible, let yourself off the hook, stretch it out, let it go, just bring yourself down. And I suppose that then becomes a statement of principle or lifestyle, like having basic wholesome principles that nourish you. And that's important too. And I suppose that then becomes, the wider out you go, you can do it in your own world, but then, in time as a collective, we're going to start to develop those more humanistic processes culturally, I hope.
And you're right. I do quite a bit of reading with ancient cultures, and they seem to be have that awareness and that understanding and that wisdom to working with nature, like we were talking about before with the stars, but also on Earth as well. And have they got everything done. They lived their best life. They were enjoyed. They weren't missing anything. But and they may not have had the technology that we've got now, or potentially. But were they happier? There'd be a lot of suggestions that say they were, and more at peace, and more calm, and more centered. That homeostasis, just that balance that we talk about. What I've also like to bring up, I've just been reading a fair bit recently about the neurological sort of pathways too, and just doing a bit of exploring down this path, because with me going through cancer, it was all about, for me, okay, what can I physically change, but also the stress and the trauma and the metaphysical and the physiological side of things. I've really wanted to explore that, because I want to go as natural as I can, and I want to explore what I can do at a conscious level to best avoid going down this path again, I guess, but more importantly, to live my best life and my most joyous life, and health, and health comes in so many different aspects. But what I've read too, Martin, lately is it was really interesting that I think a lot of us know about the programming as far as the first 7 years of our life, all the influences we have. But I sort of move forward to about they say, and they've done science tests on this, that you get to around the 30s, 35 mark, and what a lot of what we do, and I'm talking the high 99%, 98% of what we do is at a subconscious automatic level from a neurological pathway. We make our bed, we eat, we drink, we go to the toilet, we do all the things that we do as humans, but we don't even think about that. And if that's all fine, and that's a natural part of who we are and what we do, but also to have that level of awareness and consciousness, big conscious of your subconscious. So what are you doing in your life without even thinking that may not necessarily be advantage or putting you in good stead or good health? What habits have you crept into your life by the time you're 35? If you don't wake up or have that awareness, you're just going to continue along that pathway, as I did, as a lot of people do, and before you know it, unless you do wake up and get that listen to the taps on the shoulder that the universe provides so beautifully for us, eventually it will sometimes kill us. Without being over dramatic. So I'd encourage anyone to just explore what you're doing automatically without thinking, and is that to your advantage, and is that good for you, or is it detrimental to your health? So what do you got thoughts on it?
Good point, Billy. Like it is, you're right. Like we are the product of our unconscious motivations, our instincts, and I suppose, if you look at 1 to 7, they say, the first 7 years of our life, we're conditioned or we're set up. I mean, big story short, again, I guess. But essentially, there is an interplay there. Like from an astrological lens, the moon, so to speak, the moon rules the body and the DNA and things like that. But also, it's the moon, it rules the seasons and tides and flows and cycles. But essentially, there is this unconscious driver that goes on in our life, and it is a cyclic nature. Like, I mean, we are essentially playing out unconscious patterns, and every moon, and they say the moon is representative of these subconscious drivers that take place. So with each new moon, we go through a particular cycle or a particular orientation in some way to our unconscious drivers that were installed in us in the first 7 years of our life. And it's interesting, 7 comes into it because where the moon has 28-day cycle, Saturn has a 28-year cycle. And you mentioned 35. At 28, Saturn comes back to its resting point for when we were born. So essentially what they say is that the first 28 years of our life is our incarnation cycle. We get to either receive or play out all our biological karma, essentially, karma for want of a better word. But like it's this experience of what's either been the system we incarnated into or the family system we come into or whatever. It's the life process that brings us to a point of maturity at 28. And there's a process called the Saturn return that happens at 28, where, we kind of hit a lot of walls that, kind of have to grow up and mature and make decisions. Most people get married or have kids or finally become the manager or go out on their own in business or whatever it is. It's a point of maturity, 28, where you go, you know what, I'm going to supersede from my old hierarchy and I'm going to become me. I'm the grown up. Saturn cycle, whatever we haven't mastered from our first 28 years comes back to haunt us at the first Saturn square at 35. And so that's when we also confront our choices to break with our original pattern. But that happens every 7 years after that. So that's that 7-year cycle where Saturn reaches its quarter in its 28-year cycle. So really, there's 3 Saturn cycles in life. You got 1 to 28, 28 to 56, and then, God willing, 56 to 84. And each of those is a 28-year cycle of emotional, physical, spiritual growth that is marked by 7 years points of crisis that essentially are all designed for us to continually revise and upgrade our unconscious operatings and mechanisms in order to grow and kind of refine and evolve, essentially. But it's funny that those 3 Saturn cycles, 84 years, is the cycle of Uranus, which is the cycle of spirit or our cycle of self. So we go through these mini cycles within this greater cycle of self to uncover our subconscious motivations, which we have incarnated into for whatever reason we chose to do it. So, we picked our family, we picked our chart, we picked our moment. Therefore, we picked our biology, we picked our DNA, we picked our conditioning, we picked all our things, and they're the ones that we then start to play out. But we can play them out through consciousness. And so we can either do them unconsciously, like the moon. Every month we find ourselves going around the same old, or we can apply consciousness to it. And each lap of the block, instead of doing a round and round and round, if you see it in 3-dimension, we start doing a spiral up. And that's the path of conscious growth, is breaking that 2-dimensional cycle of repetition, of habit, and taking it into a cycle of evolution, which is through application of consciousness to our unconscious, if that makes sense. Yeah,
absolutely. That's beautiful.
Yeah, if that answers that, Billy. Yeah, but that's how I see it, Billy. Yeah.
Excellent. Is there anything else, Martin, that you'd like to sort of share with us from a astrological point of view?
I was going to say there's heaps, but yeah, I was going to say just Billy. Yeah. Totally, but I would just say, like, use this Lionsgate. Like, it is Leo new moon. It's an imaginative new moon. It's a penultimate point in choosing to move from one part of life into a new phase of life. It's about consciously reinventing your idea of yourself. So, use the expansive communication, use the ability to speak your philosophy, speak your mind, speak your truth, be open to new information and new inspiration, and basically, reinvent but at the same time, look after yourself, take it easy,
Beautiful.
Create some space, be kind to yourself, that type of thing.
Excellent.
Yeah, fully.
Yeah, no,
but yeah,
fantastic.
I don't know, just a bit of a plug, Billy, mindless plug here, but we do sessions here at Arcanum Vita. We do chart readings and work with all these types of energies. So, feel free also to book in and have a session, and we work with your chart, see how this new moon fits into your chart, see how every new moon fits into your chart, and sort of, I guess, have a look at just ways of approaching the energy and ways of navigating the ongoing process, so you can sort of chart out an evolutionary plan for yourself and hook in and work with it, I guess.
And just from a personal perspective, I mean, those that don't know, that's how we met a number of years ago, Martin.
Totally.
I found it, even though I had some trust and faith and belief in astrology in general, you bring such a holistic viewpoint that you're able to explain it in real terms and what that actually means to us in life. And I found it fascinating. And what drew me in is how accurate it is. With personality traits and what's happening in your life. It doesn't have, we're all going through our paths and journeys, but there's certain aspects that, all the different moons and planets have an influence on us, and, depending on our birth chart and everything else, which you'd be able to explain to someone, I would recommend it so highly, because it really does give you perspective. It's not about predicting your future or anything like that. I didn't find it's about putting things in perspective, and from a big picture thing perspective, the stars are there. The ancient cultures have used this for centuries and centuries, and Martin, what you do now so beautifully in 2024 is bring that to people, and it's a tool that I would suggest. And I'm not saying that just because we're here talking. That's what got us drawn together initially, and develop what we've got now. So anyone listening, absolutely, I'll put the link on there as well for anyone that wants to learn more about you and your website, and
thanks, Billy.
give you a call. So
cool. Right. Awesome, and I appreciate your words there. But thanks for having us, Billy, and I hope everyone has a good month. And I'll look forward to talking to you next new moon. Next new moon.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks so much, Martin, for joining me, and I hope you have a wonderful day, mate. And everyone out there, enjoy your time. Take on board what we say. Take what resonates, and leave what doesn't, of course, as we say. And thank you very much for everyone for joining us. Thanks again, Martin.
Cool. Thanks, Billy. Take care. Have a good one.
Care.